quite a while I wanted to put out this video, but I didn't know how to word it to make it more interesting. But I'm just going to go into it and explain how, as I've been saying since I had my experience, that the universe showed me that everything that we are doing does correspond with the vibration. And those vibrations do change based on the collective actions and the collective mentality of the world we're in. And our names actually vibrate with things in a way that most people, especially people who think they're intelligent, refuse to even look at because it makes their mind go, well, what the hell does this mean? It means we're doing millions of things and taking so many actions that we should not be doing that it will help you realize that we need to stop doing most of the human activities because they're destructive. And there are plenty of people who say symbology and signs don't mean anything. But then there are tons of people who think that symbology and signs mean everything. But in reality, that's how we communicate, which changes minds. So yes, the symbols, the names, the words, they don't mean everything, but they contribute to a great deal of the direction it goes. So now I'm just going to go into this video breaking down how the names of the people in the government are actually definitions of the actions the universe recognizes them for. And if you don't see it and you don't understand it, I would like you to ask why. Because this kind of stuff is very hard for a person who's actually had the experience I've had to try to explain when no one wants to take it seriously. Especially if you knew how many things in my personal life I've lost. And this isn't about me. It's not about what I've lost. It's not about what I've been through. But I also have to take that into consideration because it affects my desire and my motivation to keep trying to bring this to people's attention. Now let's get into the video. I'll do a short summary of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance because I've already done them in a previous video. But if you know the name Donald, it is said to mean one of two things: world ruler or dark stranger. Both things can apply to something negative, especially when you're trying to live in an independent, free world. Somebody ruling you is not a good thing. So that name meaning and that name definition is actually a bad thing. But if we don't just look at what definitions people have given us in Greek terminology or what this name means from the Bible or from Hebrew, your life is a long period of events that continuously change and adapt. And your vibration changes and adapts, but will always correspond with the word. As in with Donald Trump, we've also heard that the word Don means a mafia leader. But if you just look at what the word is, the word done, D-O-N-E, means a to or from through ongoing notion expressed. It means I've done it. It's finished. It's the expression of a to and from ongoing notion. So it's come and gone. It's done. D-O-N-E. When we have A-L-D at the end of the word instead of E, it's a to and from or dia, ongoing notion or nature, active as it lies, to and from. So it's basically saying we need to keep it the way it's been. And who could be a better, more prime example of white supremacy than Mr. Donald Trump? And then when you look at the vice president, during this time of trying to rekindle the white supremacy flame, the guy who's second to the man in charge, Donald Trump, his name is J.D. Vance. And like I've said before in the other video, when you add Vance, it's the active to and from vital active notion or nature constant to itself expressing. You are moving. You're actively to and from a vital active notion. But when you take that A from advance and turn it into J.D. Vance, even though he's got longer names, he's recognized as J.D. So that's what he vibrates with. And I've done his whole name before, so if you want to see that, you can look at that. To advance means active to and from vital active notion or nature concept expressing. And J.D. Vance is what's intense to and from vital active notion constant to itself expressing. And if he's not somebody who was just brought along to be a pawn and a secondary yes man, I don't know where you're looking. I don't know what you're seeing. He is not helping people advance. He's interested in helping the group he's part of move forward and build, which is not advancing for anybody. It's only for himself. And universally, it shows up as our representation because this is what people, whether they think so or not, must want. They don't want to put action into their own life. They don't want to put any work into their own understanding of what's happening in the world. They just want to take other people's words for it and go, whoa, okay, nothing we can do. When there's plenty you can do by just showing up mentally, I've got about 15 people in this list, but I'm going to just go through them quickly and do the names they're known as, and with maybe a few of them add their birthday or the middle name just to further verify what I'm trying to explain here by their name breakdowns. Other than the president and vice president, the first person I'll break down is Kristi Noem. Kinetic reference, identified subject, plus or to any, identified. Noem. Notion or nature, ongoing, expressed manifestation. If you know anything about Kristi Noem, she tries to play along with everything. She's basically the cosplay queen. She dresses up as an electrician, a plumber, a firefighter, a cowgirl, all kinds of stuff. She's basically just role-playing. Her last name is very similar to the word name, but instead of being N-A-M-E, it's N-O-E-M. It's that notion or nature that's ongoing, and she expresses the manifestation of that. She tries to play along. Another popular female in the White House is the press secretary, Karoline Leavitt. Now, she's the person who does a lot of talking in front of the press. But isn't it funny? At least if we're paying attention, we know that there's a lot of lies being told right to our faces by the government itself. And since all those lies are things that they want to keep putting out, Caroline, she's carrying on the line, carrying on the lying. Leavitt, not one that levitates, one who puts it out, who keeps putting out their lies. Caroline Leavitt. If you can't see that, you are completely blind. And it's time for somebody to help you open the eyes so we can have a world of people who make a little more sense than just listening and doing what they're told, blindly following along. Could we possibly do that? I think so. This next individual is probably the easiest one to understand out of this whole group, but that's only if you understand what words in general mean. First, the word cache or cache, C-A-C-H-E. That's your hidden storage. It's not just something you go and click on a file and open up. It's not that kind of storage. It's more hidden. You have to dig for it. So when you see that the man that is the director of the FBI named Kash Patel, kinetic, active subject here. And then Patel is a form of the word pater, which means father, or in that way, it's a male terminology that references action. But when you have an L on the end of it, you're saying that potential active to any expression, and then L is as it lies. And he just happens to be the guy who's directing the cache of it, all those hidden files. And if you're watching what's going on in the world, is he not a person who's in charge of hidden files? If you don't see that, then please leave a comment and tell me how you don't. Because this isn't just coincidence. It's something much bigger, and I would like to talk to you about it, one-on-one, in person or on the phone, because this is deeper than everyday stuff. Next is Brendan Carr, the head of the FCC. I'll break down his name because that's the only way to really get what I mean. If you know what it means to rend or to render, but instead there's a base reference expressing notion to and from an active notion, and he's the one who constant to itself, or that concept, active, referenced upon itself. See how there's a reference in the first name, Brendan, and to, RR, references upon themselves in his last name. If there was a base reference expression, and then that notion to and from an active notion, and constant to himself, activating that reference upon itself, is communication. And when you put it all together, he's the head of the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission. Like I've said many times, this is a universal language, and these people all have their own individual stories and their own individual details, but that stuff actually does vibrate in such a different way. It's like we're living word problems. Some people have told you stuff, and you take it in, and you feel a certain way about it, and you act upon it, and that happens to every single one of us. But universally, our names align with what we do. The biggest problem is that we have so many people doing wrong. Even if you get in where you fit in this day and age, there's so much going wrong that you're liable to be doing something that's not moral or something that is incorrect or something that is harmful, even if you're trying to be a good person. And that's why it's important to understand the deeper part of who we are. Now we have the two Peters, one Peter and one Pete. As the word pater means father, which implies action, male means action. But when you see the word Peter and know that in many name translations, they say that Peter means rock. But in this way, rock doesn't mean a stone. Like when someone says, rock the boat, or let's rock, it was really rockin'. That means taking solid action. So when you look at the two people, Peter Thiel and Pete Hegseth, Peter Thiel is known for Palantir, and he was also involved with Facebook. And if you've heard anything about him in depth, he's very obsessed with the Antichrist. So when you see what his name is, Peter Thiel, Thiel, it's a plus here identified El, and El represents the bull god of the lower mind or of earth. And if you were someone who was obsessed with the Antichrist, that would be the lower god of the earth, plus here identified El. See how this guy specifically is obsessed with the Antichrist, and it's in his name. I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence. You don't have to believe me. Just look for yourself and think, please. This is because I care. It's not because I'm trying to be like, hey, look at what I noticed when I died. But as well as that, surveillance would be a plus here identified expressed as it lies. You put something there and you keep an eye on people. And he's all about surveillance. Moving from him into Pete Hegseth, Peter, once again, can mean to rock or to move in solidarity. He's known as Pete, placement or potential expression to any or plus expression. And then Hegseth, his last name has an H on both sides. So you start here, you express a generated or grouped subject expressing plus here on the other side. So it has two H's going from here to here with an Egseth between it, which represents expressed, generated, and grouped subject, express plus. So between those two H's, it's talking about taking a group and sending them somewhere, or expressing plus. I know that sounds weird, but that's what it is. The universe doesn't have to make sense to you. If there was anything that we were here to do, it's to understand and to improve, not to let people around us mislead us and ruin us. And when you see what these people are doing, you have to open your eyes and not just say, oh, well, they're in that position, so they're allowed. They are no better than you and I. In fact, they're worse. They're living in their egos completely, and their names reflect it perfectly. So that's Peter Thiel and Pete Hegseth. The plus here identified El, the bull god, one obsessed with the Antichrist. And then again, there's Pete Hegseth, which is here expressed, generated, and grouped subject, express plus here, to send people to war. And he is the Secretary of War. If I went into their birthdays, their middle names, and where they were from, it would go even deeper. But I'm not trying to do that because I already lose people by trying to talk about the way the universe is instead of what they're watching on the news. And I'm sorry for all this extra talk, but there is so much more that I need to say and want to say. But as for the two Peters, there you have it. Moving from the two Petes, well, Peter and Pete, we have two Toms. With these two guys, I don't really have to go much into breaking down their names. You can see it right there if you look just a little. First, Tom Homan. He's known as the Border Czar. Tom Homan, the Border Czar, if you were at home and you wanted to manage your home, you're the home man. Tom Homan, the Border Czar, that keeps people out of our country, our home. I know you get that. You have to. And then moving from him to Tom Massey. All these people, of course, have done a lot more than just what we see them for, but the universe will recognize them for their name. And Tom Massey, along with Ro Khanna, are the two guys who put forth the bill to put out the Epstein files. And when something is hidden and nobody has looked at it yet, is it just a universal coincidence that the guys that put it out to us were to mass see? And if you know what reconnaissance is, it means to go out and gather information. Ro Khanna. Reconnaissance and to mass see. That's Tom Massey and Ro Khanna. Need I say any more about this? Either way, I'm going to have to, because people aren't listening. And we need to get this to their attention, even though it seems simple. Once people would start looking into what I'm saying, they'd see that it goes way deeper, and there's so much more to get into. This next person is rather simple to see, and he is the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. I don't want to get too into anything biblical, but if you understand that the word John means the goings on, or what is going on, it's this intense, ongoing here notion. That's what John means in higher terms. And if you are someone who is going to speak about the goings on, if you understand also that it has been said many times that God is the Word and Christ is the Son of God, it's not the song of God, it's the actions that are birthed through the Word. And the Word doesn't mean spoken word. It's more of a spiritual meaning. And to get people to really think about that is something that people that aren't deep will not do. And that's just fine. It's going to have to be that way. But with this person, you can see it. His universal sound, his universal coordinates, his name, Mike Johnson, he's the Speaker of the House. He goes on the mic and he talks about the goings on. He's the Mike speaking, John goings on, son, not singing it, but talking about it. And he goes up to the podium and people ask him questions and he tries to make excuses for what's going on. That shouldn't be difficult to understand if you're really listening. The next three men in a row are just some of the people who make up the shadow presidency. First, we have Stephen Miller. He's the White House Deputy Chief of Staff for Policy and Homeland Security Advisor. And I've said many times that P can stand for potential or placement. Now, if you have a subject plus or to any expressed potential or placement, here expressed notion, and then you follow that with the word Miller, to manifest and identified as it lies upon itself or between two L's, expressed reference. And you just take into consideration that the meaning of a miller is someone who works in a mill or someone who makes something. So if you take into consideration that he writes a lot of Trump's speeches and he has to do with the Homeland Security, and you see subject plus expressed placement here, expressed notion, that's the Homeland Security Advisor. Placement, that's our homeland. And if you have a subject plus or to any expressed potential here, expressed notion, that goes along with him being the one writing the speeches. If I went too deep into breaking it down, I would lose a lot of people, so I'm just going to leave it at that. And if you don't understand it, I would love to explain it to you deeper, but it would have to be off of a video and have to be one-on-one speaking, because that's the only way that I can actually guarantee that somebody's paying attention and wants to know. But that's Stephen Miller. I've said many times that all names have multiple definitions, and that will show when you look deeper into people. A good example of that is Marco Rubio, another member of the shadow presidency. First, Marco is a form of the word Mars, which can mean the god of war. But this doesn't always mean literal war. It means taking brash action. And what is he part of right now? He's the interim national security advisor. That's just one of the roles he plays. Another role that he plays is the acting archivist of the United States. And if you know what archives are, those are the things that we collect and store and save for memory. Now look at his name being Marco Rubio. If you had marks that were constant to themselves ongoing, and they were the reference unanimous bio, and he is the guy in charge of the archives, then you'd have to understand that if you know what these words mean in deeper terms. What is the bio? It's the story. What is the reference unanimous bio? After you have Marco, which is the manifest active reference constant to itself ongoing, and you have a reference unanimous or unit bio, and he's in control of the archives. And right now we're going through a point in time where they're trying to erase and rewrite some of our history, because that's what people in power do. They lie to you. They always have and they always will. These people are not people we should trust. And right there, the universe itself is showing you that Marco Rubio is another person playing his role that coincides and corresponds with the way that the world is as a whole. And that's why they represent themselves in this way in front of the world. I've told so many people about this, and all the people that I've talked to will not back me up, and I don't know why. It's just too hard for them since they don't understand it, and they haven't seen what we are outside the body. And just me saying that, knowing that I'm talking about people that you can look at and hear about, And me being a person who's alive and talking, you would think that I'm just saying this. I don't want anything but to show people the deeper part of our lives, to show people that our universe is not some coincidental fluke. It's something that we're actually here to learn from, and I can teach you how. If you keep watching all these government assholes, they're going to lead you astray, deeper and deeper into a pit of shit. And if that's what you want, then keep listening to them. If you want to make some kind of better life while you're here, I can lead you in the right direction, but you have to be willing to change. Now, sorry I went off again, but that's Marco Rubio. Now, the last person I'm going to include as part of the shadow presidency is somebody who's been considered the shadow president himself. That's Russell Vought, or Russell Vote. I've heard people say it both ways. He's director of the Office of Management and Budget. First, his last name being a vital, ongoing, unanimous, or unit generated or grouped here, plus or to any. It's like making a vote, but a bigger vote for a group, especially after it follows the word Russell, which can mean to gather or bring together. So if you gathered or brought together a bunch of money, that's budget. If you gathered or brought together a bunch of people, that's management. And he's also known as one of the main contributing authors for Project 2025. Look at his name, Russell. Gather or bring together. Vought or vote doesn't mean you giving your individual vote, V-O-T-E. It's a vital, ongoing unit or unanimous, generated and grouped, here, plus or to any. So he's making decisions for a lot of people in a big way. And he's director of the Office of Budget and Management. Like I've said many times, I know that these things seem to be another language all of their own, but they're not. There's something that's under everything that's ever happened in existence. And I've shown many examples. And this happens to be another one where the universe is showing us that collectively, this is what we're doing. And these are the kind of people making choices that affect all of our lives. And if you took the time to look into some of these people and what they've been doing and what they've done, you'd see that they do not have your interests in mind. And all I'm trying to show you is we don't need them. We need them gone. And when I say gone, I don't mean killed. I don't mean hurt. I mean, they need to be out of power. They do not have power over us unless we give it to them. And too many of us are sitting back doing nothing. And someone like me wants to do something about it, but I can't on my own because I will not harm anybody. I'm here to make changes in a peaceful way. You don't make a peaceful world by going out and being crazy. In order to make a huge effect on a mass population, you've got to do that to the population. You can't get even with one person and expect that to really have that much effect on everybody. All it will do is make you look like the bad guy. And I guarantee you that I'm not the bad guy. I'm a good guy, and I'm here to make things better, if that's what people want. I know I get worked up when I talk about these, but that's because I do care and I do want to make a difference and make this world better than it is. Because we have a lot of improvements that could be made, and they wouldn't be hard if people were actually thinking. This video wouldn't be complete if we didn't include United States Attorney General Pam Bondi. I'll break her name down two ways. First, the letter P can be placement or potential. The word am is the present tense of the word be. We all know what a bond is when you bond with something, or when it clings together or holds together or comes together, a bond. And then an I at the end. So if your bond is identified with the potentials or the placement that be, Pam Bondi, she happens to be right in place with the president and all the people that support him as the Attorney General, because she is the P, the potential, am, that be, and her bond identifies with that. And if you look at it a deeper way, the things that her bond identifies with, look at what Pam does. I'm not trying to sound funny here, but it is kind of cute how the universe works. What do you do with Pam? Pam is the name of a spray that you spray on things so they don't stick. So when we have a president who's a raging criminal right in front of the world, and you have someone who comes out here and blatantly lies to your face and makes up numbers that are ridiculously impossible, wouldn't that be someone who tries to make sure that none of the allegations stick to the one that her bond identifies with? Of course it is. And do you see that these people are right in place and the universe is telling us all a story? There is one story going on, and each of us just interprets it differently. I'm not interpreting incorrectly. I'm interpreting universally, and it applies to everyone and everything, and that includes you and I and all these people who to some degree think they're better than us and can rule our lives. And once enough of us see that, just maybe, we'll make those changes that we need to make.
And as a result of, since you have been in office, President Trump, your DOJ agencies have seized more than 22 million fentanyl pills, 3,400 kilos of fentanyl since you've been your last 100 days, which saved, are you ready for this, media, 258 million lives. Are you ready for this, media?
258 million lives.
So the last person of this video was a guy named CZ, but his full name is Changpeng Zhao. And he's not part of the government, but he was involved with cryptocurrency, and there's a lot of rumor that he has been doing all kind of fraud in the crypto world. But I'm not going to go too deep into any of that because it's unimportant. I just want to show you that this person's name actually applies to what he's doing. If you think of something like cryptocurrency, which is basically money out of nowhere, this fake idea of value, if you had a guy and try to take into consideration the idea of something going ching, money, but now activate that idea and say chang, and then you have a pen, which you put things in, generated and grouped, as in Changpeng, concept, here, active, notion, generated and grouped, potential, expressing, notion, generated and grouped, from one side to the other, here, active, ongoing. And if you're seeing a little deeper, the idea of an unseen concept that's here, active, notion, generated and grouped, along with the same word having a potential, expressed, notion, generated and grouped, is the idea of something that is accumulating. Then when you add Zhao, Z-H-A-O, from one side to the other, here, actively ongoing. If you can't see that that exactly applies to somebody who is big in the crypto world, then you're not understanding the depth of what we are and who we are. And this person goes to show that the word applies to everyone, everywhere. He's from China. And the reason I included him in this video is because Donald Trump pardoned the guy, saying he doesn't even know who he is, yet his sons work with cryptocurrency. Now, the whole idea of government in general is just a concept that we're all allowing in our lives. And if people were able to see that there's someone out there, or people out there in general, who actually have their interests in mind and care about them and want to make this world better, not just for themselves and for the businessmen who pay them, then we can truly change this world. And I'm here to do that. I would love to see other people join, but most of them are too busy chasing other ideas or debating over subjects that don't matter nearly as much as they think they do. Your life, your well-being, taking care of the planet and who we share it with, that's much more important than all these silly debates that we're having. And if I could just do one thing with this video, it would be open your eyes to the deeper part of who we are. As I've said many times, and I'll say many more times, because that's as simple as life is. It's just very overcomplicated due to the people who've ruined it and the people who've let them and the people who've stood back and done nothing. And with that, I end this video, and until next time, peace and God bless.